So the first step in cleaning this up is to fish a jeweler's saw through here and cut the corners out. And it's just slow going work. Jeweler's saw don't make really aggressive cuts, so you just have to take your time. But it is actually faster than trying to get a file in there, because once I get these corners opened up, then I'll have enough room to run a file clear through from top to bottom, and that'll make it easier. So it'll be easy enough to square the corners up with a file after I get them notched out a little bit with the jeweler's saw. So there's this side of it squared up, and once I had the corners notched out of it with that jeweler's file, I just came in with a couple different sizes of files and cleaned it up, and not too big a deal. You'll notice it's still just a little low in the middle there, and that's alright. I'm going to leave that for a second. When I come in to actually fit the two pieces together, I'll clean all this up and actually fit everything together, so that'll disappear. It's only about 1/1000 low right there. And the corners aren't truly square because they're just file cut. What I'll do is I'll take the jeweler's saw in there and just clean up the corner a little bit to get it more square with the jeweler's saw. So pretty simple process. I'll flip it over and do the other side the same way. So there we have it. That's squared up nicely, both sides of it. Corners are looking pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with the draw file and draw file the water table out, and then I'll turn it up and draw file the breech face out. And that way I'll be able to get exact measurements, and I'll be able to cut in for my lumps and know where it's going to come over the bridge. So just a whole bunch of file work to do today, and I'll update as soon as I get a little progress made. I've had a lot of people ask me to do tutorials on draw filing, and I've posted a few of them on the internet in the past, but draw filing is really not a complicated thing. You need a good file. Don't buy anything Chinese or cheap. Stick with American-made Nicholson files. The way you do it is you put the file handle in your left hand, because the teeth only cut in one direction, so you want to be cutting into the grain of the teeth. And you put your other hand, your right hand, on the other end of the file. And usually what I do is I will start at the leading edge of the file and make a stroke, and then I move over just a little bit, make another stroke, and I just keep working my way across the file. That way I've got nice, clean, fresh teeth that I'm always drawing against. When I get to the end of the file, then I stop and clean up the file. Usually I'm trying to lazy and just wipe it against my pants, but you want to get all the file bits, the debris out of the file before you do it again. And you just start at the same place again. And the idea is to get the maximum amount of control you can. So you want both hands on the file, keep it nice and flat, and just draw it to you. Move over a little bit and draw it to you. And the idea is to keep from rocking either direction, and to keep everything nice and flat, straight on the surface you're working, and just keep pulling it to you with the most amount of control until you get all your machine marks cleaned up out of it. Not really complicated. It does take a little bit of practice to get any good at it, but not really hard to do. And you can flip the file over every time and use each side of it equally, or however you want to do that. And you'll notice as I keep drawing away at it here, it just keeps taking the machine marks down a little at a time, a little at a time. And eventually all of the machine marks will disappear. It's just going to take a while to do it. And of course, the larger the surface area, the longer it's going to take. The other thing that helps is, get a file that's fairly thick. You don't want one that's going to flex very much on you. You want one that's going to be fairly rigid, because you want it to, you don't want it to bow up in the middle and just draw on the outside edges. You want it to draw, across the whole surface. So, and that's the other reason for working it in small sections. If you're holding it out here, you've got more chance of flexing it. If you're holding it, close to your workpiece, then it's going to stay pretty flat and rigid, and you're going to be able to keep the surface nice and square and true this way. Of course, if a guy has a precision grinder, he can come in and do this with a precision grinder in a fraction of the time that I'm doing it and maintain a really good tolerance. But this works, and it's worked for hundreds of years, so no reason not to do it this way if you don't have the equipment to do it with precision grinding tools. So try and get a little light on here, maybe a little shade, so that you can see the reflection of this. You see this little spots right here where it's just the reflection's different. I'm down to just the last few little bits of machine marks showing up here. And this is kind of where a guy can really get himself in trouble, because he kind of wants to focus on those spots and get rid of them, but the fact is you have to work the whole length of it consistently so that you don't end up with any wavy spots in it, so that you don't get any little dips right there where those spots are. So even though I'm down to just a little bit showing and the rest of it's pretty smooth, I really just have to keep working the whole length of it so that the surface stays even and smooth and until those little spots disappear. So just a little warning there for anybody who is going to draw file some metal that when you get down to those little spots, you just got to keep working the whole thing, be patient with it, and take the whole thing down as one even surface. So there we have it. There's the water table filed out. What I'll do next is just flip it up and turn it around so it's facing me, and I'll do the same thing to the breech face, filing it out. In the radius section here, you can actually draw file that radius pretty much at the same time as you're draw filing this. You just got to start in with the edge of your file and run the edge of your file down the radius and then lay flat and pull to you. So it's not that complicated to clean up that radius the same way. You do about half of it doing this way, and then when you flip it up and do the other direction, it'll clean up the other half of it. So that radius gets draw filed at the same time. You're just using the edge of the file to start it and then pull down into it. So pretty simple, just time consuming. There we have it. The breech face is pretty well cleaned up. There's just a little spot down here I need to work on, but that's in the radius, so I can go with that a little differently. As long as I keep the radius even and it doesn't affect the wear of the face, it'll be fine. The reason is I can get away with it in this little spot here because the ejector is going to be in this area, and the case rims won't come into that area. So the case will actually be flat against the surface that's square and true. So that little spot there won't be a problem as long as it's fitted to the monoblock properly. So I can clean up that little bit right there a little differently just by working the radius area. So other than that, the rest of the breech face is done. The water table is done. So now I can take my measurements and start machining in for where the bridge is going to gut into the lumps. So anyways, that's about 6 hours worth of work.